Hi everybody, my name's Christine, but most people just call me Chris, and I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager at TripAdvisor. So today I'm going to talk to you about my experience and what I learned taking a new product concept called Viator Accelerate from MVP right through to global launch in a marketplace. But firstly, I thought I might just start by telling you a bit about myself, because I think it's always interesting to hear how product marketers get into this area, as we all tend to come from different paths. Okay, I started my career as a marketing generalist, and I worked across B2B and B2C in various industries. And I was really fortunate in that on most of these roles that I had the opportunity to take a new product to market. And as part of that, I really enjoyed the not only taking it to market, but actually trying to isolate and find out what is that value that product needs to deliver and communicate that through the marketing messaging. This kind of led me to specialising in product marketing, and as part of that, I worked in probably B2B SaaS fintech for a number of years before I thought I need a change, and I really love travelling, so I decided that I'm going to combine my love of travel with a career at TripAdvisor. So who is TripAdvisor? It's the world's largest travel guidance platform, which helps hundreds of millions of travellers each month plan and book the best trip for them. You may have used TripAdvisor if you're looking at booking accommodation, a restaurant, or even an experience. You might have looked at the reviews from the travellers to determine whether or not you wanted to stay there. I work across the Viator brand, which is the world's largest experience marketplace with over 300,000 experiences in nearly 200 countries. Being a marketplace, the model is very business to consumer. So you have the operator who lists their product or their experience on the marketplace, and we have our travellers and travel agents who book the experiences on the marketplace. I work on the B2B side of the marketplace. That is, I work with our talented operators, from everyone ranging from a single operator that might have a real passion and love for vintage clothing that runs a tour in New York on visiting all vintage clothing shops, right through to the large multinationals that have hundreds of tours in multiple countries. So it's quite a diverse range of operators. So, firstly, I wanted to provide an overview of how the new product idea came about, because I think it's always quite interesting. No surprise, it came from operator research. They told us that they wanted the ability to have more visibility and exposure on the Viator marketplace, and they wanted more control. And they wanted ways that they could stand out in the marketplace. From the business perspective, which is Viator, we want an engaging and thriving marketplace that has this competitive element. Accelerate was the answer to solve both of the operator and also Viator's challenges. So what is Viator Accelerate? Viator Accelerate is a marketing program that is embedded into the platform, and the operator chooses how much visibility they have on the platform, and that's through increasing the commission that they paid. And for that increase in commission, they receive exposure and visibility through advertising, placements, and an increase in sort rankings. As part of that, which you'll see on the screen there, there's a visibility score, and that gives them the point in time of where they sit in the competitive marketplace against the top competitor and the average competitor. So they always know where they are in the marketplace, because we want a thriving and engaged marketplace. As we were a marketplace, it was really critical that the traveller kind of experience was protected. And as part of that, we put some eligibility requirements in relation to the quality of the experience that could participate in the program, and then also ensuring that there was relevance to the traveller search. What I mean by that is that when they were served up in an advertising placement, it was relevant to the search that they were conducting at the time. Although the concept of an advertising program and a marketing program is not uncommon in a marketplace, particularly in the e-commerce, for the online travel agency industry, or the OTA, which is where Viator sits in, it's very uncommon. It actually hadn't been done before. So there was this real question about how was this idea going to resonate with our operators, and were they going to see value in the program to actually opt in? Okay, we had the product concept and we needed to now test it in marketplace. With experiences offered in over 200 countries and thousands of destinations and locations and cities, it was really important that we picked the right location to test the pilot and the MVPs. That is, we needed to capture the desired target market to ensure that they could constantly give us feedback so that we could build out the product to ensure that it fits the product market fit for launch. But in addition to that, we needed to validate this concept with our operators to see whether they actually would see the value and opt in. And that's crucial to whether this actually Viator Accelerate was going to be successful for global launch. I would actually I would recommend that actually when you are looking at testing it, that you actually put together a test market criteria that really does clearly articulate who your target market is, the attributions, and what findings and validations at each stage you're wanting to achieve. So we obviously had a product for the pilot. We had a prototype, which was very much we needed the account management team to actually help them to opt into the program. So we needed to pick a location that was going to have a strong account management representation. In addition, trying to run a pilot for a country was just not feasible. We wanted to actually scale up, learn fast, and pretty much move forward. So we started looking for either a region or a city or location. We narrowed it down. As part of that, it had to be, has these certain criteria. It had to be a competitive marketplace. It had to have enough eligible products, so it could be like a mini marketplace. It also had to have some traveller demand as well. So we picked New Orleans. It's in the United States, and we just launched the pilot in New Orleans. A couple of days later, we had to halt it because of an extreme weather event, because no tourists were going to New Orleans. However, as we already had the test market criteria in place, we actually were able to pivot and fast, and we quickly rolled that out to 2 additional cities in the US and ran that pilot while we waited for New Orleans to recover and tourism to come back. For the MVP, the product was built into the platform. So this is where we started to bring in some other elements of the unknowns, which I think is really important when you continue testing. You've got to continue pushing the parameters and the boundaries. We launched the MVPs in additional countries in the United States, as well as the Caribbean and Europe. And we brought some other elements. We wanted to test a competitive market versus a non-competitive market, those without a strong account management representation to see whether they would actually opt in and dial out, do that self-serve component. And we also wanted a market that maybe didn't have the strong traveller demand. You want to avoid a situation where you have tested your product concept in a marketplace, but you haven't tested parameters and the boundaries. You want to try and discover all those unknowns. The pilot and the MVP was very much run with the background of a COVID pandemic. So we were constantly navigating and pivoting in relation to restrictions, travel restrictions, and shutdowns. And that also had to be taken into the equation when we were actually looking at whether our pilots and MVPs were successful. The key takeaway is that when you are actually running a test or a pilot and you're looking for a location, it is really important that the target market that you are targeting is an accurate reflection of those people that are actually going to purchase your product. And that's kind of critical. You don't want to be in a situation where you're actually asking the wrong target market and they don't end up actually purchasing it. In addition, another key takeaway is that it's really important as you go through the journey that you continue to bring in some of those elements of the unknown and push those boundaries and parameters. And even, for instance, bringing in a element of a measured risk into the MVP. For example, with us, we actually launched one of the MVP locations was a very busy tourist city in Europe with a lot of operators. From a risk perspective, we're testing in a very busy market, and that could have had some consequences for us. But the risks outweighed the benefits that we learned on the journey through to launch. Sorry, okay. Okay, so who needs to be brought along for the ride? We did something a little bit different at Viator. Generally, so we had a working group, and in addition to that, we had like a steering group that we, if we needed some strategic decisions made, we kind of went to them and had those discussions with them. Generally, a working group will consist of your product manager, UX, engineering, your product marketing manager, and a data analytics who work together to build out the product. Then the product marketer, when it's ready for launch, will plan it out and execute on the go-to-market activities in market. At Viator, while we still had the product manager, US engineering, data analytics, and the product marketer within the working group, the sales leader was invited into the working group. And the reason for that is we were really dependent on the sales account management team for our pilot and MVP. So by inviting the sales leader into the working group, it was the opportunity for us to mitigate against any concerns they would have. And then they could then successfully champion and influence the pilot and MVP for us as a working group. In some ways, I was stimulating a go-to-market motion, and to do that, I needed to bring some or other representatives into the group. Ask yourself, is there value in inviting some or all of your customer representatives into the working group? You'll need to decide who to bring in and what your goal you wish to achieve, and who do you need to achieve that. It's important to bring in the right internal stakeholders whose skills and influence can contribute to the success of the project. To balance this, you need to be really strict about who you bring into the working group. If you have too many people in there, you'll have too many voices and you get easily distracted from achieving your goal. So there is a balance. Okay, treat your messaging like a product. So generally, pilots and MVPs tend to focus on testing the product, to validate a product idea, and then to continue to see whether or not it's going to have enough features to attract the early adopters, customers. As it goes from journey from MVP to MVP launch, there's a continuous cycle of test, refine, learn, refine, etc. While generally positioning, if executed correctly, doesn't change often, your message should evolve and be treated like a living and breathing thing. And what I mean by that is, during the product testing phase, this is the perfect opportunity for you to start testing your messaging in the marketplace and see if you can test it, get the feedback, and refine it for launch. So when you think about building out your messaging and applying it, some of the questions that probably to be asked is what is your message and what is the product's core value and story? Who's going to view it? So who is that really desirable target market that you want to capture as part of the messaging? And how are you going to use it? Think about the mediums and the marketing channels that you're going to take it to market, and in addition to that, how you can personalise those channels from a messaging perspective. For the pilot, we had a product prototype concept. So we're very dependent on the account management team. So I provided the account management team with all their sales enablement tools they needed, the pitch deck, the script, sales script, talking points, FAQs, and I used that as an opportunity through the pilot to gather their feedback so I can continually learn and refine right through, and took all those learnings into the MVP. Now with the MVP, I actually built out some marketing campaigns. As part of that, there was a marketing campaign lander, there was CRM, there was in-platform messaging, as well as some content. Once again, I used the data analytics and customer feedback and AM feedback to refine, test and learn. And I did this all the way till I got to the launch. The benefits of executing on all these different elements so early in the product journey is that you can continue to refine it and, more importantly, see how they all work together as you take it through to launch. So what you see up on screen, so that one thing else I did as well as part of this for the MVPs, I decided that I would test some different messaging. I ran just a very simple A/B test on the platform to see which would resonate more strongly with the operator audience. The first one there is missing out on bookings to your competitors, which is highlighting the value of getting ahead of your competitors by opting into the program. The second one there was get more visibility, which is highlighting the value of the increased exposure and visibility on Vitor. If you think about back to the problem statement, it was all about the operator research. They wanted more visibility and exposure. But this is where the value of testing your messaging within the actual journey to launch is beneficial. Because what came out was the competing message, missing out on booking to your competitors, resonated more strongly overall. And what was really interesting is a pattern started to emerge where it resonated strongly in certain markets over other markets. And what this allowed me to do is start building out that customer segmentation framework. And more importantly, allowing me to really refine that segmentation and start introducing this personalised segmentation, personalised messaging for launch. So I think much like your product has to do the hard work to resolve your customer pain points, your messaging has to do the hard work to attract your target market by communicating the value to the customer. Have a think about how you test your products and how you can actually implement and test your messaging throughout the MVP pilot and MVP to launch. Okay, multiple voice of the customer. I think this is where the product marketer can really stand out. We are the voice of the customer. We know our customers, we know our market, we've done the discovery work, and we know what insights and what requirements they need to actually fulfil their pain points. This is where I think we can play a really strong part in actually guiding the product team to building out a product that is actually going to meet the customer requirements. With the Accelerate program, the voice of the customer, skips moving, sorry, was always viewed through the lens of the customer. That is, who is that target market that we see as the desirable market that we want to target? However, you need to be cautious and over-reliance on the voice of the customer. For instance, what they say and what action they take may be very different. So when I did some research, it came out overwhelmingly that operators would go in and regularly check the visibility score to see where they are in the marketplace. But when I looked at the data analytics, I actually found out that it was a very different scenario, and that actually wasn't happening. So what you need to do is obviously balance the voice of the customer with some other tools that you have available, or data, for instance, your data analytics, your customer, your research, your industry and market. Just don't take the voice of the customer as fact. You really need to kind of balance it in that way. While it's a balancing act, if you have an understanding of your customer and market and always keep your key target market the core of your decisions, it will pay off in the long run. Okay, launch dates here. And so Vital Accelerate got launched earlier this year in February 2022 in nearly 200 countries. We had a really rapid uptake of operators opting into the program, and 9 months later, so today, we have approximately about 50% of eligible products in the program. So it's been quite successful for us as a business. But I truly believe if I didn't take those steps from the pilot to MVP to launch, we wouldn't have had such a successful launch that we did. Now it's just a challenge. You've got the adoption. It's all about the retention, and I'm sure there's a session about that. So just to recap very quickly, because I know time's running out, those key aspects of taking a product from MVP to global launch, the importance of the target market in selecting MVP test locations. Stimulate a go-to-market motion by bringing in the right stakeholders. Test, learn and refine your messaging all the way through. And always balance the voice of the customer through the lens of the target. Thank you very much for your time, and please don't hesitate to connect with me on LinkedIn or ask me any questions later. Oh, I'm just, you sure there's time, or? I can do it later if you want. If you're sure? Okay. Yeah.
So I think the top two we can probably weave together, although I do like your bit about never trust customers, they always lie. It's very Gregory House. Look at what they do, not what they say. But we've definitely got a lot of interest in if you can elaborate a bit more on the process you used to set the MVP target market, but then also how those conversations went with the product team. I kind of see the same thing. Everyone always wants to test the best thing, and you wanted to look in a weaker market. So how did those conversations go?
So in relation to those conversations, I think probably the main thing is you've got to really, and I don't want to steal, there's a session about it later, but you really need to build up a strong relationship with your product manager so that they actually rely on you as a partner. I think it was kind of, we built it up. We had this pilot, it showed it was successful. And as we went through, I really wanted to kind of continue to measure that risk, because it was, it's 300,000 experience across 200 countries. You really need to be sure when you're launching a product, that program, that it's going to work. So I think it's all about negotiating, building that relationship up and getting them to see the benefits that are going to come out of it. And we also had a steering group or a management team that was actually very supportive of us in doing that, which I think helps a lot as well.
Sorry, I was about to sneeze.
That's okay.
Didn't want to do that on microphone.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really interesting. And so I really like your part about having a partner in product. Like we can't do anything by ourselves. So how do you find, or do you find that your sales leaders really understand your role in the function of product marketing?
Well, when I first joined the company, no. I had to do a lot of, if I'm going to be honest, I had to do a lot of work to build up that relationship and basically do some internal PR. And I think that is really important for any product marketer to do that. Generally, it is either a new role and not well established in a lot of businesses, or you're on your own coming into a role as a new starter. And so that's really critical that the first thing you do is, and the way I approached it is I go to each of these internal stakeholders and I talk to them about my role and what benefits I can bring to them so they can actually see the value in a product marketer.
Very nice. It's kind of like we do internally what we do externally.
Certainly, yes.
Yes. All right, and then the last one, or second last one, how is adding ads affected adoption rates?
Interestingly, we, the product team, thought it would be the advertising placements that would actually generate some traction in that. But it was actually the increase in sort ranking that appealed to a lot of customers. I think there's a lot of psychology behind that in that regards, that they like seeing the experience being listed at the top. But overall, it's been positive both. When I have obviously done the research, after we've launched it in February, it came through that particularly you're going to ask them what made you opt in and see if your messaging has resonated. It did come through, it was because of the advertising and the increase in sort rankings.
That's interesting. I like the start with a hypothesis and test it. Yeah. And sometimes we're not right. Yeah. So can you just elaborate a little bit more on for our last question, how do you test messaging and do you test off-platform and how do you secure a budget?
I think with testing, there's so many things that you can test it with. There's qual, there's quant, there's, I think, customer advisory boards for those of you who are really fortunate enough to have it. And you can even go internally to your own organisation. You know, your sales team are out there, they know what works and what doesn't. And generally, you don't need a budget. I didn't have a budget to do any of that. So I just used the resources that I had at the time, which was the product, the in-platform, as well as all the go-to-market teams and customer-facing teams. So I think, is that an answer? I think back now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So we do have time for one more just before we come up and we reset the stage. How do you balance between working, this working group feeling where they're involved versus being too early?
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge, I think, and that's why I think you have to be really mindful, not only of who you invite in, of the team that you invite in, but who you invite in. So with this sales leader, we were really fortunate that he wanted to actually work with us as a partner, and he actually understood the benefits that the program was going to bring to him and his team and the business. And I think that was really important, and he was able to influence. If we didn't have someone that had that influential and had those skills, we may have not been so successful. So it is very much a balancing act, and sometimes it can work and sometimes it doesn't. But I think when it works, it definitely outweighs the benefits of not working, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, I do like the idea of bring people into the tent, then they can't throw rocks at you.
Yeah.
Yes. But be careful.
I didn't think of it that way.
Yes.
I must use that one.
So get people on side.
Yeah.
So thank you, Christine. That's been fantastic.